Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome in. First of all, we got to say congrats to the LSU women's basketball team as they just won the national championship. I've never come off the back of a national championship. I have a feeling one of our guests have, but hey, welcome into the 60 feet 6 inches LSU podcast live stream. That's right, we are back after a little bit of a hiatus, some travel issues, just life kind of gets in the way sometimes. We're here to take your questions and comments on the LSU versus Tennessee series, which saw the Tigers take 2 out of 3 from a top 10 opponent. And as always, thank you for joining me. First up, I'm joined by my man, Stephen Miller, Mr. LSU. What's up, buddy? Thanks for coming on the show, man. How you doing?
Great, man. Great. It's always great to see the Tigers win, man.
No doubt. And especially against – yeah. I think it was a series, obviously, everybody had circled when they saw the schedule come out, especially look at back-to-back Arkansas and then Tennessee. And then my second guest today is Hunt Palmer. You can find Hunt every day on ESPN 104.5 in Baton Rouge from 1 to 3 p.m. Monday through Friday. He does a great job, and I'm lucky enough to be on his show on Wednesdays. But Hunt, how are you doing, man? Thanks for joining us. I appreciate it.
I'm doing good. Good to be here. Good win for the Lady Tigers. Good win for the baseball team over the weekend. It's all good in Baton Rouge.
Yeah, I think everybody's riding high. So hopefully people can get down at that high, maybe join in on the live stream. And if not, we will always post it. We'll take your questions and comments as we go on. But real quick, little housekeeping duties. As a reminder, you can always find the 60 feet 6 inches LSU pod on Apple, Google, Spotify, all the major audio platforms. You can also catch all the content on the YouTube channel and the Twitter account where this show will be linked. And once again, the Twitter account is at 60FT6IN LSU pod. Before we get into that Friday game, very quickly, I want to give a shout out to some couple people that I had a chance to hang out with this weekend. Alex Day from the Weekend Rotation podcast. He was in town for Arkansas and Tennessee. Also, I had Jim and Randy that were in town, and they were on the Tennessee preview edition of the In Off the Bench podcast. Then finally, Matt and Brandon. If you haven't checked out the Spittin' Seeds 247 Twitter account, those guys do a very cool job. They have some great graphics. They're just trying to grow the game over there. And then finally, the last shout out, I cannot forget my guy, Jacob. Jacob came up after the Friday night game as we were sitting there talking baseball and just talking about the game. He stopped me, shook my hand. He said it was nice to meet me. I don't know how he recognized me, but he listens to the pod. I told him I'd give him a shout out. So, Jacob, just wanted to make sure you got your shout out before we get into it. All right, fellas. LSU takes 2 out of 3. They win game 1 in the series Thursday night. I've been saying Friday a lot, but Thursday night 5-2. So, Hunt, we'll just kick it to you first. So, look, heading into game 1, how confident were you that LSU could take this game when they went up against Dollander? We know he's one of the best pitchers in the country, but especially after what we saw LSU do on last Friday night against Arkansas, against Hollander and Hagen Smith. How'd you feel coming into that game?
Well, that's the game everybody's been circling for months around here. I mean, you obviously know what Tennessee created 2 years ago, going to Omaha, beating LSU in Super Regional. Then last year were maybe the best team I've ever seen, top to bottom. And coming back, having your entire weekend rotation back, there was a lot of buzz around Tennessee in the preseason for good reason. And you knew that Dollander would be going in game 1. You knew that LSU was going to counter with Skenes. You were going to have 2 guys that are probably going to sign for north of $14 million in signing bonuses here in a couple of months. And it was going to be, in one of the great settings in college baseball with 2 of the best arms in the country. And it delivered. I mean, it was an incredible environment. It was a great ball game. And I felt going into it that LSU had a great chance to win. I'm going to feel that way about just about every game they play, especially with Skenes on the mound. So LSU's offense is better than Tennessee's. They are more proven than Tennessee's, and in the pitching, I thought was probably going to be just about a wash. So that's the one that I felt pretty good about LSU entering the weekend. It was the next 2 where I'm looking at LSU's starters and going, okay, not as proven as opposed to Tennessee's, which have been very, very good for a year and a half now. So I felt pretty good going into that first game.
Yeah, it was. I probably felt a little opposite. I just didn't know what to be able to get out of Dollander, but we kind of learned. Doing some different research that if you had to get to those guys, you better get to them early. And look, Stephen, another magnificent performance from Paul Skenes on the mound. And being in that stadium, we were all there on Thursday night. It was absolutely electric. The atmosphere was magnificent. It was everything you want college baseball to be in that setting, on that stage with those 2 studs going up against each other, duking it out to see really who would blink first. But look, Stephen, LSU comes out the gate swinging. They hit Dollander hard in the first couple innings. and they left some people on base. But were you surprised at how well LSU hitters were able to barrel him up from really the first inning through the time he got out the game?
Man, I just hats off to Jay and the crew. It's just like that they had a plan and they stuck to it, and man, that plan worked. But it's getting back to the atmosphere and stuff. It really felt like the LSU Alabama game in the fall. I mean, there was a huge buzz all week long. Tailgating was huge Thursday afternoon on a work weekday. And my goodness, the crowd, the lines for every gate were like waiting on them is just to open. It was just like a dam. It was just like ready to bust. Crowd showed up nice. Weather was perfect. Jay Johnson, the guys, they had a plan going in, and man, did they execute, and they executed early.
Yeah, I mean, the first pitch of the game in the bottom half of the inning, Dugas absolutely smokes like 97 in the left center gap, and I was like, uh-oh, it looks like it's on. LSU can't get anything going in the first, and that just seemed to be the theme against Dollander Hunt. He goes 4 2/3, 4 hits, 2 runs, 2 earned, 3 walks. The surprising thing to me was only 3 Ks. So LSU did a great job of waiting him out. He may not have had his best stuff, but I put a lot of that on LSU with their approach at the plate. But early on, it didn't seem like LSU could grab any opportunities to score, first and second in the first inning with nobody out. Tennessee wiggles out of it. Then another time, it feels like Dollander wiggles it out of it again. Hunt, were you worried early on that LSU may come to regret some of those opportunities they missed in the first couple innings?
Yeah, I mean, if you looked at the statistics, I think you all did a pretty good job in the preview podcast of painting the picture, and I did it on my show entering Thursday's game with Dollander. He had given up something like 11 runs in the first 2 innings, and then after that, in like 22 and 2/3 innings, he'd given up 4. So once he settles in, it's really tough to get him, and LSU put some pressure on him early, but they weren't able to deliver the big blow. I think the one spot that I would have done something a little bit differently than LSU did, and I realize it's not a very popular thing to say, but when they got the first 2 guys on, I think it was the 3rd or the 4th, but Morgan was coming up with 2 on and nobody out. I would have bunted him there. The third baseman was playing way, way back, and Cruz and White are coming up next. He's an All-American type player. It's not a very popular opinion to have Trey Morgan try to lay a bunt down there, but in a game like that where you are confident your pitcher's going to throw zeros up there, and every run is so precious. I think given an opportunity to move 2 guys in a scoring position with those 2 guys coming up would have been something that I would have tried to do. They didn't. Morgan hit into the double play, and LSU wasn't able to scratch. But they made Dollander work hard enough that the pitch count got elevated, and Tony had to go to the bullpen, and that was a theme the entire weekend, and it has been a theme with this team really against everybody not named Hunter Holland.
Yeah, no, you're right. And we've talked numerous times on your show, Stephen. Everybody's texted on here, I think, but we've talked about their approach and the fact that they make people work, not only the first time through the order, but the second time, and it's a total team approach. And you're right. They drove up Dollander's pitch count early. But the Vols take a 1-0 lead in the 5th, but then you got Gavin Dugas. That man comes up, and he hits a monster 2-run home run to put LSU up 2-1 after Thompson leads off the double, and then Dugas comes up. And Dugas, to me, just continues to show up for this team in clutch situations. I know people seem like they think Thompson's clutch, but I look at Dugas this weekend and then what he did, obviously, against Texas. Stephen, what do you think about Dugas this year and just how he's performed and just his story as a whole, and what he's meant to this team?
I mean, I think I put out a tweet, I think it was yesterday, said if you look up in the dictionary the word leader and captain, you're going to find a picture of him there. I mean, he's like the glue on this team. I mean, do we have a lot of new parts, and we have a lot of old parts, but him just being there is just bringing it all in. Man, it's just something you just can't measure. I mean, he just got it. But I had a few texts early in the innings, and folks were like complaining about the tagging up and leaving guys on. I was like, I just feel like the dam is about to break. As I said, we keep hitting them hard, and and eventually that dam's going to break. Especially, it's just like you said, you got Skeen pitching there and just lights out. So it's just going to take 1 or 2, maybe 3 runs, and then that's it. I mean, they just kept peppering it, and finally, shit. Dugas, he hit one, and I think it landed on the bridge. To be honest, I think it landed, but that's unconfirmed.
That thing was I was too busy high-fiving the people around me, really, and I kind of lost it. I'm at the first base at U High over there across the behind the left field bleachers. But Hunt, I think it may have been one of your D1 guys who comes on with you during the week to talk baseball, but one of their writers put out there Friday night that they thought Thompson was the heart and soul of this team, and I responded on Twitter, not in a bad way, but I just disagreed. To me, it's Gavin Dugas. I don't necessarily want to make you have to choose, but where do you stand on that with regards to kind of the heart and soul of the team? We know they got star power, Cruz, Tommy Tanks, Skenes, but in terms of the, like Steven said, the glue. What do you think?
It's both guys. It is. Gavin Dugas has been here for half a decade. He's seen just about everything, and he's a great player and is a great leader on the team. I can also tell you those guys adore Jordan Thompson. He is a rock in that locker room. He played through injury last year. He's had huge hits in his career. We know he had the walk-off homer in Minute Maid. He had a big hit in Hattiesburg in that Saturday game last year in the regional. He's a really clutch player and a really, really good leader. So you don't have to choose one. They got two guys in that locker room, and there are a bunch of others that are just big time leaders. And it's a team that appears from the outside to have a really good way about them. I think there's a lot of guys that like each other, a lot of guys that take accountability and responsibility, and it's been a good mix thus far.
There's no doubt. It's yeah. I mean, I don't know if you can. I don't know a ton of these guys, right? I'm not on the field with these guys all the time, but just what you said, Hunt, you can kind of feel that come through the screen. It feels like, and when you're at the park, to where it's not about them. It's just about the team, right? It's not personal. It's about us, not about me. It's about we. And I totally agree with you. But look, Tennessee ties it up in the 8th, but LSU comes right back again. And it's that man, Thompson, 2 outs, they really make something happen. And Tennessee kind of miscued right there, right? Paxton Kling is able to beat out an infield single. And then Thompson comes up with a huge bases clearing double as he is able to score 3 runs right here. As we take a look at this clip, they get 0-1 on a slider. And I was just shocked that Tennessee decided to call a fastball right here. And Thompson smokes it into the right center gap, scores 3. You knew they were going to score 3 as soon as it rolled to the fence. And for me, that place went bananas. It felt like a football stadium in there. You see the coaches pushing everybody back so they don't get ejected by some crazy umpire right there. And shout out to my son for grabbing that clip right there. But Steven, just going back to Thompson, we know he was kind of much maligned. It felt like everybody, he was everybody's punching bag last year with the defense and whatnot. And he seems like he's really proven the critics wrong. But what do you make about JT's play up until this point in the season so far, Steven?
Just stellar, man. I mean, just like the guy on Hunt show said. I mean, he's like a captain. I mean, just playing shortstop for the number 1 team in the nation, you've got to have that it factor. So I mean, you're going to get all the action. You're going to get a lot of praise, and you're going to get a lot of hate. So I mean, he's embraced it. I mean, he just shows up every single game, and it just seems like every time there's like a big play, he's coming up to bat and getting a hit or making a great play on defense. I mean, he's always there for us, man. I mean, there's just something about him. He's just clutch. I mean, I know I would have won him up at the plate and like a little.
Yeah, no. Yeah, and I think his defense is much improved this year. I did have a head scratching moment in the 9th actually in one of those games, but then he comes to make I think yesterday in the 1st, he just made an unbelievable play. He's just healthy. Right, he's finally healthy. I didn't know about the injury until they talked about it before the year started. But I mean, Thompson, just a massive play right there. That's a lot of pressure, obviously, and he comes through in the clutch. But we haven't mentioned the guy yet, and it feels you can't talk about Friday night, or this case Thursday night, without talking about Paul Skenes on the mound. It's hard to believe we hadn't even really brought him up yet. But Hunt, look, he is once again dominant. Skenes, 7 innings pitched, 5 hits, 1 run, 1 earned, 1 walk. Phenomenal, 12 Ks, another double-digit strikeout performance. I mean, I know we've talked about plenty on your show, Hunt, and I know you've kind of waxed poetic about it, but is there anything left to say about Paul Skenes at this point, up until this point of the season?
No, I mean, he's a true ace, and that's something that is just vitally important as you get into postseason play. If you're going to go out there, I mean, you assume that LSU should be able to handle a 4 seed on a Friday in a regional. If you do that, then you hand the ball to Paul Skenes on a Saturday, and you can take control of the regional that way. In a super regional, you're going to hand that guy the ball in the first game, and you're probably going to win the game. I mean, he's almost unhittable for college hitters. There's just not a lot of guys that are going to have a ton of success against him, especially when he throws strikes. And only had one walk in the 7 innings back on Thursday. So it's fastball. The fastball velocity is the best in the country. I saw a flow chart on it last week that showed all the starters in college baseball. He has the hardest average fastball, and now he's throwing a really good slider, and he's throwing a 90-mile-an-hour changeup. I mean, it's elite stuff, and it's elite makeup and command, and it's the whole package, and it's going to make LSU really tough to deal with on weekends.
Yeah, no, I think one of your ESPN partners over there, Hanny, I think he had KP. I think he had Kyle Peterson, who was on the call this weekend. And to your point, I believe Peterson mentioned on Friday, Hanny had him on, that he had after the Thursday night outing, his average fastball was right around like 99 and then some decimal places, which was harder than any major league starter last year, like the whole year in terms of their average fastball for starts. And that just shows you how impressive he is. And the fact that, look, Steven, Skenes has mowed through 3 ranked teams so far with A&M, Arkansas, and now Tennessee. And to myself as a pitcher, I'm like, I want to see you prove a little more. I want to see you prove a little more. Now do it against, Ahuna and Christian Moore and Blake Burke and Dickey and Denton. Those guys can hit, man. They can swing it. But he just continues to produce, and he's going to have to do it next weekend when he goes on the road to South Carolina, and that's going to be a hostile environment. Steven, is this something that the LSU fan base should just expect? Like, you should just expect Skenes to go out there and mow for 7 innings? Is that fair to him?
I think so. I mean, for me personally, because I kind of feel like it's reminiscent of when Nola and Lane started on Friday nights. It was like, okay, we know we're going to get 7. We know we're going to get about 10 Ks, minimum walks. If we can get 3 to 4 runs, it's a wrap. I mean, and man, Skenes has just been absolutely mind-boggling. This is video game type stuff. I mean, it's just I've run out of adjectives, basically. I mean, it's just crazy.
Yeah,
I can't think of anything else.
Yeah, no, I think there were like 75 pro scouts that requested press passes for the Thursday night game, and it just goes to show you the fact that I think his last pitch of the game was 100 and whatever the decimal places showed, and he's popping 101. I thought we were going to get a true 102 with the atmosphere on Thursday night. I thought he may heat it up against Blake Burke, but it just made him look silly with some sliders.
I'll tell you who else was there. In addition to scouts, the Washington Post came down because the Nationals picked second, and their Skenes, Dollander, and Cruz were all playing. So they sent one of their writers down to write a big feature on all 3 guys in the same ballpark. It was that Thursday night was a big deal because it was no one else was playing. So if you're going to watch college baseball on Thursday night, there's 13,000 in the box. There's Skenes, there's Cruz, there's Dollander. That's impressionable for a lot of people that may have been watching.
Yeah, it's Go ahead, Steven.
No, it's just like you said. You got a 101-mile-an-hour fastball, and you break it off with an 84-mile-an-hour slider. So, good luck. You just close your eyes and just swing as hard as you can, and just hope you make some contact or something. It's good night. And then now he's showing his 90-mile-an-hour changeup. Good luck. Man.
Yeah, it's because even when you get 2 strikes, right, you can't just throw the you got to gear up for the fastball, and then when he throws the slider out of the same release point, it's disgusting. And I think the fact that they talked on a couple of broadcasts ago, maybe against Arkansas, maybe, or even A&M, just how much his 2-seamer moves, and they're talking about 12 to 14 inches of movement. I guess nowadays they call it horizontal break, but the fact that he can throw that to lefties, it starts down the middle and ends up off the corner. It's unfair. And as a I think anybody, a fan, I had Tennessee fans, and I was standing right next to him with Randy, who did the preview pod, and you just have to appreciate what he is and what that was. And I appreciated watching Dollander throw. You just have to appreciate just good college baseball and guys going at it. And you can put your fandom to the side for a moment and say, this is just really cool. You can walk out of there and say, that was fun. That was fun from a fan's perspective. But heading into the Friday game, LSU was they faced Chase Burns. And when you talk to some Tennessee people, and Hunt, you maybe even had this when you had the Tennessee beat writer on, that some people think Burns has a bigger upside or maybe even just better stuff than Dollander. He throws a little harder. His slider is absolutely disgusting, and that thing can get up to 90 miles an hour. And LSU sent Kai Floyd to the mound. And as we know, the Tigers came out on top 6-4 as they came back to take the lead late, kind of midway through that game. And look, Floyd struggled again, like he did against Arkansas early in the game. But then against Arkansas, when he got settled down, he kind of cruised. But Floyd gets off to a rocky start as he gave up a solo home run in the first, and then a solo home run in the second. Hunt. And just, I know you dig into it in your show, and you're going to do a great job on Monday recapping Floyd. But what do you think of his outing coming off the Arkansas, to where we kind of saw him? He was at 70 pitches like we talked about in the third, and then he just cruised. But in this one, he was still kind of fighting himself a little bit. What do you think about his outing, Hunt?
I thought it was okay. Obviously Ahuna ambushes one early and hits it off the center field wall literally before I'd even sat down. And you're down 1-0, and he gives up the long ball in the second as well. He was gritty, he was gutty, he was okay. I would like better. I think that LSU's rotation is a question mark at this point after Skenes, and we'll certainly get into that. But I thought he was okay. That's about as far as I'll go in either direction.
Yeah, that's I don't know if I can go much further. You kind of hit the nail on the head. But Stephen, hey, look, Floyd gets the win. He goes 5 innings, right? Just kind of up and down. 6 hits, 4 runs, 4 earned, 1 walk, which is good, 5 Ks. And he kept LSU in the game, it felt like, right? LSU bounces back in the bottom of the first as they score 3 with 2 outs. Obviously, Tennessee, their defense is kind of shambolic at times. But what do you think, Stephen, with Floyd's outing and his ability to keep LSU in the game? Kind of piggybacking off what Hunt said, what do you think about Floyd?
I mean, it's just kind of just like a ho-hum. But the main thing is Floyd is following Skenes. So the opposing team is facing 101, nasty slider, nasty change, and then you go to Floyd, whose fastball is up there in speed, but you don't get a lot of run on it. I mean, he just kind of had a pedestrian day. What would you say, like 5 innings and 6 hits, and 4 runs? But the main thing is he threw strikes. He had 1 walk, so he's letting our defense work, which is good, but I mean, it's following Skenes is just going to be a tough ask for him. But he got the win, and Bats kind of saved him there in the bottom of the first because, that was a big time answer. I mean, because if we don't score on the first and then they come back in the second score and it's 2-0, then we may have the different situation.
Yeah, no doubt. And that leads us right into the next point. LSU answers back with 3 runs. Morgan hits a double. White hits a double. Beloso comes up. He hits a double. And then circus takes place on the Tennessee mound, as that was a mess. As Pearson, it goes down in the book as a double to the pitcher.
Yep.
And look, Hunt, what do you make about LSU's lineup? They score. It seems like they score so many runs with 2 outs. And their ability to answer back, I put it out there on the preview pod as one of my keys to the weekend. I felt like LSU was going to have to come back this weekend late. I just had a feeling. I don't know why. It was just a hunch. They did it Thursday night. They do it a little bit, not as dramatic as a fashion on Friday night. But what do you think about their lineup and just the ability for them to – they get punched in the mouth right out the gate, but they just find a way to come back right there with 2 outs, Hunt?
Yeah, I mean, look, Tennessee scores a run in the first. You come back with a 3 spot. Tennessee takes the lead with a 2 spot in the fourth in that Friday game, and you come back with immediately 2 more. That's important, to be resilient and to take advantage of the mistakes that Tennessee made, and they did make some mistakes. Can't deal with the ball over by first base on Thursday night, not catching pop-ups on Friday, and then you give LSU extra out or 2, and it's dangerous. I thought that Jay loaded the lineup on Friday against Chase Burns with a lot of left-handed bats because of that slider and how good it is. So he had Morgan in there, Beloso, Pearson, Joe Bear, Neal. He went heavy on the left-handers, and that slider's still really good. But Trey Morgan up there in the 2-hole got 3 for 5 in that game. and had a big night, and it was good to see Tommy White contribute as well. Pearson got a hit. So they've got a lot of options. They've got a lot of talent. They've got a lot of different ways they can beat you. And I think as far as the biggest credit I can give the lineup this weekend is that you saw Chase Dollander on Thursday, and he didn't make it out of the 5th inning. You saw Chase Burns on Friday, and he did not make it out of the 4th inning. Then you saw Drew Beam on Saturday, and he threw 4 innings and gave up 6 runs. So, I mean, that's the best weekend rotation in the country, and none of them sniffed the 5th inning.
No, it's you might as well cut that and put that on your show tomorrow, because that's fabulous. I mean, you're right. Best rotation in the country. And you can take your purple and gold glasses off, but people need to admit, like, these dudes can throw it. They're all gonna be big leaguers. There's like no doubt. And quickly, they all throw upper to mid 90s with multiple pitches for strikes. And for them not to get out the 5th, that says a lot about this lineup. How they just wear on you. But Hunt said it, Steven, the Vols hit it. I think Zane Denton hits a 2-run shot in the 4th. But once again, the Tigers come right back with a solo bomb from Brady Neal off a slider from Chase Burns, and Gavin Dugas goes back-to-back. There's that man again, Dugas. And then he eventually comes around to score the winning run as he just crushes a ball off the right center field wall. And at the time, I thought that kid caught it. You couldn't tell with the white background, but he leads off with a double, and then they manufacture a run right there. Really quick, I want to touch on Neal. I think everybody knows this story by now. Hunt and I probably said it 20 times between us, but this dude is supposed to still be in high school. Like, he should still be at IMG, and he's catching, a top 5 pick in the draft. He's starting as a freshman on the number 1 team in the country. And, Steven, I was surprised to see him win that job outright from Milazzo. I thought they may split some time early on, but he ended up just taking it, and Jay just went with him. Steven, just talk about him and the job he's done as a freshman this year with the bat and then behind the plate. And you see a lot of catchers, right? You ump some very good high school baseball, So just talk about Neal from your perspective.
The kid is obviously way mature beyond his years of a freshman. I mean, because we've got a 17-year-old kid here. He's coming in. He's working Skenes. He's working all these big name guys, and turn around and he's getting it done to play too. And big thing is his arm strength. I mean, shoot, he gunned down some guys this year that kind of, I was like, whoa. I mean, shoot, we got a defensive and an offensive guy here, and he's only 17. I mean, you just can't say enough about him. I mean, the home run he hit, what was that, Friday, was huge.
Yeah, it was massive, right? It ties the game, really. And so for him to just crush a pitch, it's the guy seeing Chase Burns, he throws a 90-mile-per-hour slider that hangs, and he's able to turn on it. But I wouldn't say I'm burying the lead. Steven, we'll stick with you, and then we'll go back to Hunt. But to me, I mean, you really could say the story of the game, besides, what Dugas was able to do. But the story of the game is after Ty Floyd leaves, you got Chase Shores and Griffin Herring, 2 freshmen, kind of, showing what Neal can do. But then you look on the pitching side of things. You got Shores comes in and he throws 6-7. Herring comes in and he shuts it down. Steven, what did you make about Jay going to those freshmen right there? And what do you think about their outing? 4 innings of zeros they threw up against the Vols.
Man, I love to see it. I mean, Jay's just like, all right, guys, you want a shot? Here you go. Out there and throw strikes. I mean, you just look at Friday and Saturday's or Thursday and Friday's game. Combined, we had 2 walks total. We had 1 from Skenes and 1 from Ty. And then the rest were just zeros. All your relief, zeros. And for me, that's the biggest change from Thursday and Friday to Saturday is just walks. It's just free passes. I mean, you just can't allow it. And it's obvious that Jay is real tight on that. So Griffin's just coming in and just getting the job done. I mean, it's just like Garrett did Thursday night. Shoot, he had Zen in 2/3 with 2 hits and 2 Ks and 0 walks. Griffin, he comes in Friday, 2 innings, 4 Ks, no hits, no walks. I mean, not much more you can ask from a freshman like him. I mean, I think I heard him say in the preseason that next year he's got a shot to take a weekend spot, possibly.
Yeah.
Aaron.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. And there's no doubt, Hunt. I mean, I think Herring, we'll get into it. Let's save that for later. But I think you know where I'm going to go. But look, Shores and Herring, 4 innings pitched, 2 hits, 6 Ks. I don't know if I was surprised by Shores, and I've never been down on him. I just know how tough it is for these guys to succeed. They have the stuff, right? They have great stuff, both of them. But you've slowly seen them get worked in to the bullpen during the SEC. And I was a fan of, after what Herring did in the 8th, where he dealt. I probably turned to my son. I think Alex was standing next to me, Alex Day. I was like, throw him back out there, because he was pounding the zone, getting ahead of hitters. Hunt, what did you make of those 2 freshmen coming in against a top 10 team? And I mean, 4 zeros on the board when you got to have it. You can't let anybody get on, or you got to work out of some jams. They just slammed the door.
So that story has basically 2-pronged. It's one, that Jay went to those 2 guys when he could have gone to Christian Little. He could have gone to Riley Cooper, who he obviously very much trusts. He could have gone some other directions. Instead, he says, no, we got a tight spot against one of the top 5 teams in the country, and we got to get 4 innings worth of outs, and we're going to go to Chase Shores, the freshman, and then we're going to go to Griffin Herring in the 8th inning of a 2-run game for 6 outs when he hasn't done anything remotely close to that all year. And I thought that the statement it made to send him back out there for the 9th was a big one, and the response was unbelievable. You never know how much a jump guys are going to make from January scrimmages when it's 49 degrees outside and there's 100 people there to, okay, now it's 80 degrees outside. There's 11,000. What's the adrenaline look like? What kind of stuff do you bring to the mound? And Griffin Herring was in the mid-90s with his fastball. He was throwing strikes. And, I mean, Jay said it last week, previous to Tennessee, he said that kid's going to be a star here this year, and you're going to see him in games. And so that's a guy that I want to see have his role increase, and whether that's as a starter, whether that's as a high leverage reliever, he looks like he's got the stuff, the moxie, it's all there. And we'll talk about, obviously, I know we're going with what happened with LSU starting pitcher in game 3, but even if you look at Ty Floyd through 2 weeks where he hasn't been dominant and working into the 7th inning, the way the staff is shaking out, you're probably going to have a lot of guys as opposed to 3 guys that eat a ton of innings as a starting rotation. You're going to have a lot of guys on a weekend to work to get all the outs. And those 2, stepped up in this game and nailed it down.
There's no doubt. And I think the most impressive thing I saw from Herring was first pitch strikes, just pounded the zone. And that is exactly what you want to do in that situation, to where you're already 0-1. He's 92. I don't care if it's down the middle, just as long as it's down in the zone. And then obviously he has a wipeout slider, but he's coming in facing like just dudes, right? Christian Moore and Blake Burke. I think he made Blake Burke just look silly. And that's a lot for a freshman to not just get caught up in the moment. And I will say this, a tip of the hat to him. When they made a mess of that absolute last strikeout, right? Brady Neal misses it, and then he relaxes, and he just nonchalantly throws it to first, and Morgan drops it, and it was a cluster. And you can kind of feel like, uh-oh. But then Morgan just goes Herring just goes bam, bam, bam. First pitch strike. He doesn't let him affect him to where, things could have gotten a little out of hand, a little shaky, but really impressive by the freshman. And we're going to go from good right there to ugly, because on Saturday, I keep wanting to say Sunday. On Saturday, look, it was a mess. And we saw Tennessee take the game 14-7 as they salvage a game out of the series. And I think for this, I don't want to get into every inning because that would take us another 30 minutes. And I'm not even going to focus on the hitters. Although I will say, look, Dylan Cruz went nuts. Trey Morgan went nuts. Cruz went 4 for 4 with 3 RBIs after having a relatively quiet game 1 and 2. Morgan goes 3 for 6 with 2 RBIs. Bear Jones had 3 hits, which is good. But look, the biggest story of this game is the pitching. And let's get into it. Hunt, I'll start with you. Thatcher Hurd, another shaky outing. And I want to say this to everybody, and I don't know if the Hurds may actually be listening. I love Thatcher Hurd, and I love his potential, and he has been lights out at times this year. But he has another shaky outing, his 3rd in a row. He doesn't record it out in the 1st inning. And I put it on Twitter so everybody knows. I myself back in the day, I had a start against Mississippi State. I did not get one out. I gave up 4 runs, and I was back in the dugout. And actually, Bertman sent me home. He said, "Go rest up for tomorrow because you may be in relief." So if anybody's been there, it's been me. But Hunt, 4 hits, 6 runs, 6 earned, 2 walks. Just obviously, what do you make about his outing? And we're going to get into this later on fair or foul. But where does LSU maybe go from there?
It's really disheartening because I believe that LSU is one piece away from this being a complete team, and that is a number 2 starter. I think Ty Floyd's been fine. I think the ceiling for Thatcher Hurd is higher than Ty Floyd's because he's got a little bit better mix. He spins the ball a little bit better, and he has the potential to be a first-round draft pick as a pitcher and showed that at UCLA. He's coming off a serious injury, and he spent a lot of time not pitching. I thought he'd kind of found it against Butler, and he looked really good in those 2 non-conference weekends before conference started. But now that's 3 times out there against really good lineups and 3 pretty poor results, and obviously the most disappointing one in Game 3 this week. So LSU is in a position because of their talent and because of the way the schedule shapes up with no Florida and no Vanderbilt, and you've already played Tennessee and Arkansas and A&M, and you've got some games that you're going to win here coming up. So they have the luxury to be patient if they want to be, because it's not going to kill you if you send Thatcher Hurd out there against South Carolina and he gets lit up again. You're in a good position because of the talent that you've got, and you're going to win a lot of games. I think they're going to make a change. I think they're going to look somewhere else and see if they can get Thatcher maybe some innings in the midweek to clean some things up. He's not throwing nearly enough strikes. He's not missing nearly enough bats. And then he didn't get any help by, Gavin slips, and then they played poor defense and can't catch a pop-up. But it's really disappointing because right now you can look at this 2 different ways. You can look at this as what which everything's set up great for them right now. Or you can look at this from a perspective of this team is expected to compete for a national championship. Yeah. And the fact that they're not getting really strong starts from anyone other than Skenes on the weekend is something that's got to give you a lot of pause when you get to June. It's not going to hurt LSU in April or May. They're going to be fine. They're going to hit a ton. They got Skenes on Fridays. They're fine in the SEC. It's just a matter of will it bite you when it comes down the road, and that's something we'll find out in June.
No, that's all great points, and I totally agree. Steven, do you think it's obviously having you project right here, but lack of confidence? Do you think it's his stuff, maybe a mechanical issue? I know some people maybe in the comments are wondering about his back. Obviously, Hunt, Steven, and I were talking before we went on live, and Hunt alluded to the fact is Jay just doesn't talk about injuries. So I don't know if that's any big secret, but he just doesn't talk about them. So I don't think
are just not for the media.
There you go. Yeah, so we just won't know, right? But Steven, what do you think about Hurd's outing? Anything you see in particular, or just struggling to find it?
Yeah, I mean, it's just the inability of him to just get ahead early. I mean, I think I'd taken somebody like the 3rd batter. I was like, it just don't look like he's got it. I mean, and then he continued to struggle, and it weighs on you. I mean, and it just looked like it was just too big of a scene for him. He never could just get it off his back and just get a first pitch strike and then get it out. And then we got the ground ball there. And maybe you could say the grounds crew just went a little extra heavy on the watering, so say. But I mean, but yeah, I mean, he was struggling to throw strikes, and just like you said, he was struggling to get any help. I mean, and you combine those 2 things, and man, set yourself up in a bad situation, and then there we were down 6-0 in the first inning. I mean, it's very rarely is that you're going to give up 10 runs in the first 2 innings and try to make a game of it. But
yeah, and I felt for him, right? You could see it on his face on TV. He was just
good.
He's good. He's mad at himself. He's frustrated. I'm sure he's disappointed that he let his teammates down. It's obviously not the outing anybody wanted when you have a chance at a sweep, and I'm sure it's just I don't understand why. I just don't understand why I can't find it.
It just sucks personally for him that you spend your entire week preparing for your start, for in this case on Saturday, usually on Sunday. He spends the whole week getting ready for Saturday, and then it's over in 15 minutes and he didn't get anybody out. And then you have to wait a whole another week probably to get back out there. I mean, if I was Jay, I would love to see him start the game against Nichols on Tuesday. Just say, hey, give me 1 inning. I need to get 3 outs. Yeah. That's all I need to do is get 3 outs against Nichols. I don't know if he'll do that or not, but it's just that's disappointing from a personal perspective that's what your entire week's geared up for. And like that, it's over.
Yeah, no, I agree. I would love to see him get the start, maybe keep him at 40 pitches, let him get one time through the order or something like that, or 2 innings. And then, almost as treated as a bullpen, but just a way for him to have some confidence going. But look, maybe there was one bright spot in that 14-7 loss. And it took a little while to get there as Riley Cooper comes on in relief for Hurd, and he scuffled early, but then he kind of finally got in a groove and he gave LSU a chance to win it. I don't know about win it, but get back in it. And LSU left a ton of guys on base towards the end. And in hindsight's 2020, right? I remember, Steven, you texted me, you were at the game, and I was watching the broadcast, and the broadcast is behind the live action. And Steven goes, one batter too late, one batter too long. He goes, uh-oh. And I'm like, I guess something's getting ready to happen. And he gives up a 2-run home run at the end of his outing. But Coop goes 5 2/3, 8 hits, 6 runs, 6 earned, 2 walks, 5 Ks. And at least he got to extend a little bit right there. Steven, what do you make of Cooper's outing? Is that maybe a little bit of a silver lining right there in that Saturday loss?
Yeah, man. I mean, comes in the game, bases are juiced, nobody out. I mean, best case scenario there is you give up 1 or 2 runs. I mean, what did he gave up the last 2 in the first inning, and then he came back in the second inning and looked okay, but he gave up some. Well, I think he gave up 2 in the second inning, but gave up
4. It was a rough. It was a rough second inning. It looked like batting practice.
They were hitting lasers everywhere.
Yeah. Then he settled down, though. He did settle down.
He settled down in the 3rd, 4th, and the 5th. But then in the 5th, they started hitting some piss rockets at him, and we had a lot of long outs. I don't know if I text you in time or not, but I was like, man. I don't know about sending him out here again. It seems like we're just playing with fire here. And first guy gets on, and then that second guy, he hits it a freaking mile. I'm like, oh, but 2020, though, it's like you say, one batter just a little too long. But I don't know. I just feel like right in the 5th inning, I think it was, we were down, 10-6, something like that. And we were trying to make a little rally.
Yeah.
And we had, I think, bases full or 2nd and 3rd or 1st and 2nd.
Yeah, Morgan hit one pretty good into the outfield, and they ran it down. That would have scored a couple, and then Cruz would have been coming up. That was the part of the game where you thought, oh, my gosh, they might actually do this. And then they ran Morgan's down, and then they came back and put a couple more runs on the board. It was lights out.
And when they hit that shot against Cooper, I was like, that's the dagger there. I mean, it went from 10-6 to 12-6, and you're like, I just sat back in my chair. I was like, that's it, man.
Yeah. You only get so many chances to come back from a big. Yeah, you needed when it was 10-6. You needed to scratch 2 more, or maybe somebody hit a 2 or 3 run home run to get the crowd energized again and get them back in it. But they can never just put just enough pressure on Tennessee.
All right, I believe 12 on base Saturday.
We left a lot. I don't have the stats here with me. I think it was maybe 7 or. I know at one point it was 7 or 8. So it was. I know there's 2 innings back to back really hurt. I think they left bases loaded maybe 2 innings. They couldn't get a key 2-out hit. It just wasn't meant to be. You know what I mean? So, all right, we're gonna try something new here on the 60 feet 6 inches LSU live stream here. We're getting ready to take, obviously not taking y'all's questions and comments. That's not new. But we're gonna do fair or foul. So I'm gonna throw out a topic, and they're gonna tell me if it's fair or foul. Both guys are gonna get a chance to answer, and we're gonna pick up on that Saturday message here with Hurd. All right, Hunt, and a lot of people are kind of asking these questions in the comment section here. Fair or foul? Should Hurd should be taken out of the 3rd spot, whether that's Saturday or Sunday?
I think that's fair. If they put him back out there in Game 3 next weekend, I'm not going to be disappointed because I still want to believe that he could maybe find something. But I do think that they may look elsewhere next week.
Steven, fair or foul? Hurd taken out of the 3rd spot?
That's fair. It's fair question. I mean, I would like to see him on Tuesday. Though is just to get his calmness back. It's just maybe an inning or 2. I mean, so I would hate for him to go no outs Saturday, and then come back on we played Thursday, Friday, and Saturday this weekend too.
I haven't checked the upcoming schedule yet. I don't know if it's back to Friday. Okay.
Yeah.
This weekend, LSU's Thursday in South Carolina. Everybody's Thursday because of Easter.
Okay, there you go. Yeah, so you got to wait. Like Hunt, that was a great point, right? You get ready, then you got to wait a whole 7 days to pitch again.
Yeah.
So, I think we had a comment that came up with let's see, Matt Beard, my guy over there from the Spittin' Seeds 247 account. Y'all go check out Matt. He was on a podcast not that long ago. All right, y'all can see that. Does Blake Money or Riley Cooper get the starting nod again? Steven, we'll start with you. Do you think that's an option right there, or do you think he leans somewhere else?
I think he goes in another avenue than those two.
Yeah, Hunt, what do you think about those two? About Matt's question right there.
I think Shores and Herring are the two that you would look to. Herring's both those guys are gonna be weekend starters at LSU very likely at some point.
Yeah.
I don't know that Herring stretched out the way that Shores is because he started a little bit earlier in the season. But those two guys I think are probably options before Money or Cooper.
Yeah, that was actually my number 2 fair or foul question. So we'll just kind of skip that. But I think nothing negative against Blake Money. To me, his stuff just seems a tick down this year. I don't know why. I saw him pitch in the spring. I didn't see him in the fall. And then when you watch him out there, it just seems a little – I think his velocity is a little down. His curveball to me doesn't seem as sharp. And I think he can still get guys out in the SEC. I don't know if I would go with him more than an inning, but I think he's definitely a midweek guy. And Cooper, I think he's still trying to figure stuff out. I think he stays in that relief role. But I agree. You got Shores or Herring, and you got Little. Mate could run, Christian Little out there on Saturday against South Carolina if you needed to. All right, here we go. Steven, we'll start this with you. Fair or foul? LSU has a depth problem in their bullpen. They do not have enough reliable arms right now.
That's foul. If you look at Friday and or Thursday and Friday, bullpen just did great. I mean, Cooper, he came in on Saturday and he quote unquote he held the rope enough, but really like what I've been seeing out of Guidry as well. I mean, it's a couple times that we've seen and he's come in and worked a nice, clean, crisp inning. So maybe that's something to build on. I don't know. I don't think
go ahead, Steven.
That we have a problem though there.
Hunt, depth problem in their bullpen. Fair or foul?
I would say foul. I think I got plenty of guys. I think you feel really good about Garrett Edwards.
Yeah.
I think you feel good if he's healthy with Ackenhausen. Shores has been really good in SEC play. Herring's now coming along. You've got Cooper there as well. Little is a proven SEC talented arm. You could keep going and listen a couple more, just kind of depending on what it looks like in the starting rotation. And it looks like that's where LSU's going to have to go on weekends. It's just not going to be very likely that your game 2 or 3 starter is going to give you 7 innings, 7 2/3 innings. They're probably going to give you closer to 4 or 5 2/3 innings, and then you're going to have to patch it up from there. And you can do that. Yeah. That's what most teams in the country have to do. Most teams don't have what Tennessee has, where the rotation's got 3 first-round picks in it. That's what most teams do, and it feels like that's where LSU is right now.
Yeah, right now is the key point in that sentence, I think. And I was just listening to your comment. I think you're spot on, but I was just kind of a little disappointed in it because I felt like we wouldn't be in that situation this year to where I thought 2 and 3 were going to be a little settled. But look, there's still plenty of time. We still got 7 SEC series left. Hunt, we'll stick with you. Fair or foul? This team doesn't have a killer mentality. 2 chances to sweep with A&M and Tennessee, and they just couldn't close them out.
Foul. I think they're just fine. No, I think they're just fine. They just didn't play well in those 2 games. The bullpen kind of let them down in the game in College Station, and then you just got a very, very poor start in your in game 3 here. The offense showed up. I mean, if you would have told me walking in there on Saturday that against Drew Beam with their bullpen fairly rested, you saw Sewell in that game as our guy, hey, they're going to score 7 runs on 15 hits in this one. I'd be like, all right, I think we're going to be in pretty good shape. Just you gave up 14 runs on 17 hits, so. You just haven't played well enough in those games.
Yeah. Steven, fair or foul on that? No killer mentality. They can't sweep when they needed to.
Way foul. Way foul off the front ankle. Way foul. I mean, they've got it. They've got it. I mean, just go back to look at Thursday night's game. I mean, you got Dugas, you got JT there. I mean, they got it. Don't worry about that. They got it.
Yeah, no doubt. All right. I think we may throw some of these comments up in the fair or foul section real quick. One more for you guys. Here we go. We'll just do that right now. Just on the spot, fair or foul. And I failed to mention Beloso. In the preview pod, I kind of threw that in there at the end after I got a chance to sit there and think about it. I thought he could play a big role in the weekend, and I thought he played a bigger role than what he did. He only had one hit. I think he went like 1 for 12. When I went back and looked at the box scores. All right, Steven, fair or foul? Beloso should start at first when Trey is in left field.
Ooh, this is a tough one, but I'm gonna say foul. For right now, I still got to go Jones, man. I just like his upside.
Gotcha. Hunt, just kind of right here on the spot. I'm sorry.
I said Jones is too good of a crooked in right there for him from one swing of the bat.
Yeah. Hunt, what you think?
I'm okay with both guys getting at bats. I would lean Jones more often, but Cade's done a really good job. I would go 65-35 in favor of Jones. If we were going to do that, I'd play Trey Morgan at first base is what I would do. But
I would too. Yeah, exactly.
So, but I think I want to make sure that Jared Jones gets his at bats because he's special.
Yeah, I think at times he's what's that?
Let me put one little star on that. If Paxton Kling is 100%, I don't want to see Trey back in the outfield. But that's the big key. Is he healthy or not, though?
Yeah, it's that's the thing, right? You've seen like Joe Bear a little bit. You've seen Beloso kind of with his bat come back into the mix. Jones can have off days, but he's a kind of product of big swing and miss, right? He can go 0 for 4, then the next day he can turn around and get you 7 RBIs. And we know Jay likes to play the pitch and matchup game. So I was happy with seeing Beloso get a shot. He brings a veteran presence to the lineup. He had a rough day. He had a rough day on Saturday against Beam and against Sewell. He was one of those guys where I think it was bases loaded, 2 outs, and he worked Sewell to 3-2. Yeah. And I put it on Twitter. Sewell just drops in like an 82-mile-per-hour changeup for a strike, and you're just like, oof. That's some cojones right there, big cojones, Kelly. That's some cojones to throw a 3-2 changeup with the bases loaded. That was Okay. So let's. I know we got to respect these guys' time, and they're getting ready to bounce. But one more. Let's see, last one. We'll go one more question right here. One more question, fair or foul, and then we'll get out of here. Pearson needs to stay in right field for SEC play. Hunt, what do you think about that?
Look, I think Pearson needs to play some, but I want Joe Bear at bats and I want Kling at bats as well. And then you've got the situation we were just talking about at first base. So if you've got a situation where, you've got Beam and he's throwing this ridiculous slider that you need a bunch of lefties in there, I need Pearson in there. If they've got a case where you got some sidewinding left-hander with some frisbee slider that his splits or the right-handers are way better, then I need to get Jones and Kling and those guys more at bats. So I'm not – there are a few positions on this team, first, left, and right, and DH, where I don't need one guy to just win it. I want to do what's best for the team that day.
Yeah, no doubt. Steven, really quick as we wrap up.
Yeah, I mean, that's how it's just going to be. I mean, Jay's going to do the righty versus the lefty thing all year long. I mean, so I don't know.
Yeah, no. Well, listen, I think we're going to wrap up here. Respect these guys' time. And that's going to do it for us here on the 60 Feet 6 Inches LSU Pod, the live stream. Thank everyone for tuning in. Thank you for the questions, the comments. I always appreciate the interaction. Of course, I got to thank my guest, Stephen Miller, for hopping on here, as always, gracious with his time. And then obviously Hunt Palmer, and y'all know where y'all can catch Hunt every day, Monday through Friday, 1 to 3 on 104.5 ESPN in Baton Rouge. And I'm on Hunt's show. He brings me on. I love doing his segment at 2:30. I get about 10 minutes to talk some baseball as we look at the weekend that was and maybe preview the weekend that's coming up. But, guys, thank y'all for your time. I really appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right, guys. See y'all.
Yeah, that sounds good. So y'all make sure to tune into the YouTube channel and follow me on Twitter, and look out for the South Carolina preview dropping on Wednesday. Until next time, y'all stay safe, and as always, go Tigers.
Go Tigers.